Hi. This session is going to be about the jobs we've had, and I will start out with Mom telling about the jobs that she had first when she was in California.
Okay, yes, okay. And my first job was when I was in high school, and right across the street from my high school, there was a little flower shop that a wonderful lady owned, and my brother Don delivered a paper. Both my brothers delivered papers, newspapers, and it was on Don's route. And so he would sometimes talk a little bit with Janine, because he would actually take the newspaper into her shop. He'd park his bike in the front and take the newspaper into her. Anyway, he learned from talking with her enough that she was kind of really looking for somebody to train, and so he told me about it, and I went and introduced myself, and she said sure. And so that was my first job, was working in a flower shop. Little did I know how far that would take me. And so I did that after high school, worked in the afternoons and on Saturdays, and did that for actually several years. And when I graduated high school, I graduated summa cum laude, and really didn't do college. That's okay, that's a whole nother story. I went from this little flower shop to another flower shop that was bigger, and it was called Conroy's. And I believe, if I'm getting this right, I did work for the Department of Motor Vehicles, and and that was during the time that I met Dad. I was working at the Department of Motor Vehicles. And that was real fun, because when I met him, I was able to go in and do check him out. Like, I could put his name into our system, because we had information on it. So I knew his address, I knew where he lived, and I knew he had never been in an accident. and
I told her, she saw my name was David S. Maynard, and so she asked me what the S was for, and I wouldn't tell her.
Yeah, so the next, go ahead.
So she went in and checked it out, and then the next time she saw me, she said, "Well, hello, David Sinclair Maynard," and I was shocked. But I also thought, if she's checking me out, she's kind of interested. So that was kind of good.
Well, he had to pass the Department of Motor Vehicles test. Like, I didn't want any, I don't think it would have shown warrants for his arrest, but it certainly would have showed if he'd had a lot of tickets or, that kind of thing. And he was a safe driver, still is.
I have to tell you about this one part, though.
Okay.
She told me about this right after it happened. She was working at the DMV behind the window, and that's like our Secretary of State.
Yeah.
And these two Mexican guys came in, and I think they were late on their registration, and so you just told them, well, I've got some paperwork to do, so you stay right here, and I'm going to do the paperwork right here. It'll just take me a couple of minutes. Now, at the time, Mom's hair was a light brown anyway, but she had dyed it blonde. So here's this gorgeous, blue-eyed blonde girl, and I'm sure these Mexicans thought, oh, she's a valley girl. She's probably not too smart. And so as Mom is doing the work, they're talking among themselves in Spanish.
There were probably valley girls who were smart. I mean, I don't mean we don't mean to put like
But the things they're saying are, they're saying like, wow, this girl is blank, blankety blank, and we'd like to blank, blankety blank.
They believe that they are completely uncensored, because they're talking in fluent Spanish, very rapid Spanish, like we would if we were talking English and, talking in hushed tones or whatever.
So Mom just goes on doing her work, and they're really talking, I'll say gross. Some of they're just really
uncensored. They don't realize that. Yeah,
that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So then mom looks up and she's ready to talk to them, and they go back to their, oh, no speak English.
Right.
Then she explains to them what they need to do in perfect, fluent Spanish.
With an accent, everything. I sounded like I was, a California Mexican. I mean, I sounded just like them. Their eyes got bigger and bigger, and that was a wonderful moment for me. I felt like, okay, please realize that it's called respect, and you don't know who's listening, and you can choose differently the next time. So, and that's all I didn't say anything to them about how they had talked. I mean, I just figured they would get it because I had talked to them in fluent Spanish. They knew I understood what they said.
But she told me, she said, they were dark skinned, and she said you could see their faces turn red.
Definitely.
And she said their jaws hit the floor.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were completely unprepared for that.
I told her I would have paid big money to see that. So anyway, so after that job,
so then I went to work at Forest Lawn, and actually Forest Lawn was a huge place, and they had a huge flower shop. It was a cemetery slash mortuary place in Los Angeles. You know, very wealthy people that they had plots there, and it was such a beautiful. It was acres and acres of just absolutely beautiful scenery. There was a part that, of course, wasn't in the front by our shop that wasn't used for burial, and people would schedule getting wedding pictures taken there because it was so beautiful, a pond and everything. It was just gorgeous. Well, anyway, so when we moved back to Michigan, and I was looking for a job, I went to a place called Norton's in Ypsilanti, and I told them that I used to work, where I was coming from. I worked at Forest Lawn in Los Angeles, and their eyes got real big, and they said, okay. Well, back then, there's no, I keep saying this, there was no internet. And they were able, though, to find the number for Norton's and call them.
For Forest Lawn.
I'm sorry, for Forest Lawn, sorry. And call them to confirm, did Patty Maynard work there?
Because I don't think they trusted that she did.
Right.
I think she was lying.
And so my manager, he said, oh, yes, she did. We really enjoyed her. She's a good florist. Tell her we miss her. Tell her that we all say hi, So I was hired.
Yes.
And it was actually when I was working at Norton's that I became pregnant with Brian. So I shifted from being, a florist to being a mom. Yeah. And that's my favorite job. That Mom and Mena are my favorite jobs that I've had. Let's see. So and then I worked a little bit, and it was when we were here at this house, right? When I did that. When I worked at J.C. Penney and Lane Bryant for a little bit.
It might have been at. It might have been at Woodlawn. I'm not sure.
I don't remember that exactly, but anyway, I did that, but very briefly.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those places weren't more than a year.
Yeah.
And then I can't read what that says.
Image Queen.
Oh, yes. And for years, many years, at West Winds, I was nicknamed the Image Queen, and I did everything that you saw on the screens. My team produced, and it was fun. And we did a lot of creative things, and I really enjoyed that.
Very creative.
And that whole industry came of age during the time that I was managing the media at West Winds, and so a lot of new apps and programs were introduced specifically for showing song lyrics on the screen and all the things involved with anything that would be on a screen, at a worship service. A lot of that came of age during the time that I was Image Queen at West Winds. That was fun.
Yeah.
And now I am, and that was I just did it because I had a passion for it. It was a volunteer thing, and now I am a volunteer chaplain at our current church, Jack's Naz, and I absolutely love what I do. And I've been a chaplain now for almost 8 years, and I just love. And I also do a lot with our women's ministry. And I just love that. I have a real passion for coming alongside people and just being with them when they are going through a struggling time, and not to have answers, just to be with them, to sit in the mess with them and say, God is here with you, and so am I, and you're going to get through this, and a step at a time.
And she, a little bit before that, when the company Rome came out here, she computerized us.
Yeah.
The company was not computerized at that point. So
I went online, and then you could go online. I went online and I found a program, that could manage our distribution and our inventory and payroll, all of that. And so I.
What would you say? What did you say you learned from all of this?
What I learned that really surprised me was I'm creative. I mean, I knew that. I guess I didn't really. I
Realize
think
how creative.
I own that. Now I get it. That's how God made me. I am a very creative person. I choose compassion, and I choose creativity, and that drives a lot of what I do. And you guys know this, but I mean, just when we did a lot of the remodel here to this home we're in now, I got a computer program, and I learned how to use it, how to figure out how to remodel our kitchen and add on to the house, and by golly, we had the addition based on my computer program and what I came up with. So
and it was amazing when we went into Lowe's and she presented all this to the guy there. He was surprised. He said, "Well, do you do this for a living?" And she said, "No."
No.
And he says, "Wow." He says, "People don't just come in here with all the stuff you have and do this."
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Anyway, so
okay, so my jobs are when I graduated from Eastern Michigan, I got a job as a chemist at Olson Labs, and that was for about a year, and then when I left for California, when I first got out to California, I got a job right away teaching at an all-girls Catholic school, and I taught physics, chemistry, and math. So, and I did that for a semester. Then that was in June of '75, and I had decided at that point to go back to grad school, so I went to Cal State University Northridge full-time in physics with a specialty in astrophysics. And I was also a graduate teaching assistant. I taught, for a year, I taught the underclassmen lab, physics lab. I met Mom in that time, and at the end, it was in, it was started in September '74, so in June of '75, when it was over, I decided, you know what, I'm halfway through a master's, but I kind of want to get married, and I'm pretty sure I do. And so I need a job because we need some money. So I got a job as a math teacher at Fremont High School, which was down in the inner city in LA. It was 97% black and 3% Hispanic. And out of 95 school districts in LA, this was the third worst for violence. And I mean to tell you, God was with me there.
Yeah, they had armed guards, back then. They had armed guards in the school.
And God was absolutely with me, and I could also, to some of the people that were really troubled, I could talk to them after class, and I talked to them about Jesus. And I was talking to the vice principal one day, and I said, "Hey, I just want you to know, I talked to this kid after class or after school, and I'm going to talk to him about Jesus." And he said, "Mr. Maynard, you go right ahead, because that's exactly what they do." So it was awesome. But
and something I want to say there, just Dad, yes, it was there was it was a violent, there were issues of violence and things like that. Dad was always, because he would share with me, we talked a lot about it, very respectful to those students. Those students knew that he was there to teach them and that it mattered to him that they learned about math. And he really, I believe, he gave them every opportunity from everything he explained to me, and I believe that the man over his department got it.
Yeah.
That
He
Dad
did.
really
He did.
cared about. He had a passion for teaching, but he cared about the students, and it was really good to see that combination. I think his supervisor really appreciated that Dad had that combination. And so it wasn't, he wasn't looking down on the students or judging. He was much
no.
more engaging with them, and he was probably a fresh breath of air for them, given all that they were going through in other ways. So
I was the third math teacher in 6 weeks.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
so
I,
they've been through a lot.
Yeah, I stayed through that semester,
Yeah.
but then because I was teaching, really it was 5th grade math to 10th graders.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them just stopped coming to school.
Yeah.
Probably 50% of them did,
Yeah.
and they had to let me go because they didn't have enough students to have me work. They really wanted me to stay on, so they said, look, we can make you a substitute. I tried that for 3 days, and I thought, no, this is
Yeah.
not for me.
Yeah.
So I then was looking for another job, and then I got a job as a research and development lab manager for a plastics company. And that was when Mom and I got married. That was where I was working. And when we left California, that's the job that I had to quit. When we got back to Ypsilanti, I got a job right away teaching math at Ypsilanti High School. But again, I really wanted to teach physics, and I didn't even want to teach high school. I really wanted to teach like at a junior college.
Yeah.
But I got a job at Chelsea High School teaching physics and chemistry. And that was kind of fun. I only had it for a semester because I kind of decided halfway through, I just don't want to do this long term. And so I was going to look for another job, but I also started a Bible study there.
At the
and
high school.
At the high school. And one of the guys who was in the Bible study, I kind of discipled him, and he loved the Lord, and he went on to really serve the Lord, and he's serving the Lord today.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the girls he met in the Bible study is the girl he married, and they had 5 kids, and now they have grandkids. So that was kind of neat. But then I quit there, and I got a job at the Chrysler Proving Grounds in Chelsea as an automotive engineer. And after a year and a half, after we just had our 3rd child, I got laid off in the big layoff that they had. And then I probably for almost a year, I was just doing anything I could do just to keep money on the table. And then my dad said, well, I've started my own cutting tool company, and I'm getting to the point where I need you, or I need somebody, so would you want to work for me? And I said, okay. And I said, I don't know anything about cutting tools. And he said, I don't think it's going to be hard for you to learn. You learned Astro-Physics, so I don't think cutting tools is going to be that hard. So I started working for him sometime in 1980, and then in 1999, Mom and I took over the company, and Grandpa completely retired. And then in 2014, I basically retired because I got cancer. I was going to retire in 2015 anyway. But I did have in 1981, in the winter session, I did get to teach astronomy at my old college, Schoolcraft Community College.
That's right.
I loved it. And the
That's
students gave me an evaluation afterwards, and the dean of students called me in, and he said, this is the highest student evaluation I've ever seen. We want to offer you a job. We have a physics teacher retiring in a year. And like I say, we had just had Tim, our 3rd child, And I was excited about it, but I asked him, I said, you know, I know the universities they're laying teachers off because the baby boomers are all done with college, and the baby busters coming up, there aren't as many of them. So I said, if I have this job 2 or 3 years from now and a PhD in astronomy or physics comes in and they want to take my job, are you going to have to give it to them? And he just kind of looked down at the floor and he said, yeah, I'd have to. And I said, well, I appreciate the offer, but I said, I need something more solid.
I appreciated his forthrightness, you know, that he
Yeah.
was really real about that, you know,
Yeah.
because that was a huge decision for us,
Yeah.
you know.
And so what I found in all of this is I really like teaching adults. And when I first became a Christian and I started learning about apologetics, or how Christianity could really stand up to scholarly criticism, I loved it. I thought, geez, I never heard this before. Why didn't somebody ever tell me about it? So I got excited about apologetics, and the Lord kind of wedded the two. And then, so I read a lot on apologetics for several years, and then he just had me start teaching at the church we went to, which was West Winds at that time. And I was teaching basic Christianity, but I was also teaching apologetics. And then when we moved over to First Church of the Nazarene, they had, I guess, heard about me, and so they said, hey, we want you to teach here. So I've been doing some teaching there. Several of my students have said, we understand that these courses were all your material. I mean, I passed them by my pastors, you know. They said, you ought to put this stuff on the internet. And so I thought, well, when I retire, that's what I'll do. And that's what I've done, and I will continue to do. But I guess, you know, what I learned in all that is my spiritual gift, or one of my spiritual gifts, is teaching. And, you know, as Mom will tell you, because she's seen me teach, when I'm done, I'm flying higher than a kite. I mean, when you're operating in your spiritual gift, it is an amazing experience. And now I know there are online tests you can take that will help you to determine what your spiritual gift is, but I would just encourage you, as you walk with the Lord, really find out what your spiritual gifts are. You'll probably have more than one, but you'll probably have one that's dominant. And really be open to the Lord, to where you can really exercise that spiritual gift, because there is nothing better than to really feel like you're being used by God. So that's it. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.